Welcome. This is the Late Late Show with BT, where views with security and the law are being provided to you, the public. Today's show are going to include Good Housekeeping, October 2016, Black Enterprise, not just any Black Enterprise, but the Entrepreneur Summit Preview, which was published March 2016. Better Homes and Gardens, July 2015. People, July 20th, 2015. People, August 3rd, 2015. Guidepost, July 2016. And Cosmopolitan, November 2016. So again, that's Good Housekeeping, October 2016. Black Enterprises Entrepreneurs Summit Preview, March 2016. Better Homes and Gardens, July 2015. People, July 2015. July 20th, 2015. People, August 3rd, 2015. Guidepost, July 2016. And Cosmopolitan, November 2016. We're hoping to get to the book, which is scheduled as Christmas A to Z, Unwrap the Wonder of Seasonal Words and Phrases by Thomas Nelson Incorporated. So we've had some interesting updates. Through our studies, we've found and did not know that this even exists. As much as we've been posting, as much as we have been communicating about this predator that we got in Petersburg, Virginia, there actually exists a predators gallery. And on it, there are individuals that in this list, evidently the list has been before the 90s that this list has been started. So we had the opportunity, since of our experience with this predator, to go through their list, and we were able, initially we excluded all but 3 that was listed as predators, and were able to submit and post that they were not predators to us. Then there were 3 additional, and after submitting that, it was presented to us why the 3 that we could not exclude, the reasoning behind the possibility of them not being excluded. And, with careful consideration, the reasoning appeared to be valid. So, therefore, it appears that they have all been tasked with bringing, going up against this predator, and ensuring their success and the predator's defeat, with the separation of the all but 3 that was excluded versus the 3. So you have, there are so many, I didn't keep track of, I didn't count how many there are, but I can go to them right now and see. I just know that there's 3 versus however many there is. So we're gonna go to the site live. See if I can Bing, because I don't know the site's name. If I could just put in Google the Predators Gallery and see if it'll just pop up. The Predators Gallery. Let's see, gallery. Okay, yeah, and it does come up. The wonderful internet. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So that's 17 on the first page. 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. It's So that would be 29. So that's 29 and 3. So the show, we go into 29, but we do acknowledge that there is a group that is still could be friends to the show. Um, as reluctantly as we know, as reluctantly as we will, that may align themselves with the 3 versus the 29. Um, and that's just because, and I'm not saying it's not possible for us who got the 29 to, go in the 3, because it is possible, but that's how it is at this time. It's about boundaries. It's about knowing your boundaries and having reason with regards to setting those boundaries. Knowing when you can and when you cannot, knowing if you can and if you cannot, and also not trying to hold on to, us being the 29, not trying to hold on to those 3 and making them or forcing them to be in the 29 when together with 29 plus 3, how much is that? 29, 30, 31, 32. Okay, so that's 32, and that's how you have peace in 32, by just being like, okay, this is who you are in your 3. This is who we are in our 29. And that's how we have peace as 32. Because 29 and 3, what would logically follows if there was discord, disharmony, disorder, that we wouldn't have peace in 32. So because we have peace in 32, the separation, we acknowledge that, and we get your reason behind wanting to be separate. So that's regarding the Predators Gallery. And let me just check, because I like to keep updated with any UN news. See if we have anything there. So yes, we have a preliminary protective order, but it kind of feels like we don't, because the preliminary protective order, it includes on there, I'm not going to say we don't. It is what it is. But what also is, because the protective order includes that the respondent during the preliminary protective order is not to commit any acts of family abuse, is not in addition to acts of family abuse, any criminal offenses. And that's in addition to no contact with the petitioner, which is me. It is not, to my knowledge, it appears that the respondent or the offender is still trying to have house with family members, which is why we were able to post, the situation with mom, still trying to have that situation, even though the order specifically said family. So he's in violation. The offender is in violation. And I'd be very careful to not give offenders pronouns. So if it's an offender, it's an offender, and that's what, if it's a predator, it's a predator. do have one, and I'll see if there's anything that came in, and see if there's anything that we can discuss in it. Okay, the pace of change is one of the big challenges of our time. So while that is coming up, the breakdown. Fast fashion. You barely get sleep as it is, so when it's time to rise, grabbing the closest thing to the bed is your game. But that can end up in some wardrobe malfunctions. See Moo catastrophe. So the pace of change is one of the big challenges of our time. Indeed, globalization has radically reshaped our reality, giving rise to global issues, challenges so big they can only be solved if all of humanity works together. Climate change, growing inequalities, the fourth industrial revolution, the sixth extinction, and many other universal issues go beyond the coping capabilities of any single country, bloc, or organization. The world has gotten so small in that sense, and we really need to be proactive and recognize that we're a global community and we have to work together. The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development is too comprehensive and too ambitious to be implemented the same way we implement a classic development cooperation program. That is why the SDG advocate in chief to help him ensure that their respective audiences know about the goals. So, what does it take to be a champion for the SDGs? So again, SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. It can be so difficult because, everyone have ambitions and different goals for different things. And that becomes a challenge when you have something like the predator, but there's so many other things going on in the world. There's sustainable development, there's, climate change, there's, concerns about an industrial revolution and what is an industrial revolution. There's so many other things going on. And I guess that's one thing definitely about the Predators Gallery is that, it just gives us more information with regards to, because in order for these people to have an interest in combating this predator, it had to have impacted them some kind of way. So we have Somalia on board, we have Afghanistan, Pakistan, all of these, the predator is attempting in USA. So you have all of these other nations who's like, we're here for you. You know, Somalia is here for the USA. You know, Equatorial Guinea, Syria, Sudan, Russia. So it's like, okay, don't come to me or don't try to say anything to me about any of these places trying to be enemies when this pressing situation that we got, which was regarding the predator, and these ones have stepped up to the plate to combat against it. North Korea, Iran. Don't say anything to me about that. Mexico, China. So anyway. You know, it's those ambitions, you know, when some people are so focused on their ambition and what they want to do, how they want to individually gain in prestige or in popularity or in their bank account, where they don't really care about what's going on with the masses, you know, what's affecting a lot of people. They want to gain individually, you know. And because these people are for protecting the masses, you know, they don't, you know, they can't fathom that because they're thinking of how to be the next CEO and gain that position. You know, and this one doesn't like me because that's who I am, and you shouldn't like that. So you know, you just have to really step yourself aside when it comes to opinions and receiving opinions from people when it's not clear they're presenting information that they think will lead them to a higher position, or you know, they have their own show or their own, you know, whatever, or be married to somebody with their own show versus, you know, someone that's on a path that's actually helping a community or helping, you know, a group or a collective. So just discernment and care. So, you know, again, I don't really know how they caught, because I would think they would have had to catch the predator in theirs, you know. And I don't travel. I'm stuck here in the USA. So I haven't had the chance to go to Venezuela and know how this predator, you know, is trying to be close to me and how that impacted, you know, the people that Maduro got. I don't know that. But what I know is that when this site has been out, it has been out. This predator has been a predator since like 1983 or 1984, the early 80s. That, you know, so anyway, we're going to keep it moving because I really would like to get to the book. And this is always interesting to me that Cosmo does. They use like all these drawings and where it's like sexual positions where they, you know, educate on sexual positions for people and how to perform them. And they don't show human, you know, regular bodies. They use drawings in it, which is another element that I like about it. And we're gonna start with the time bomb. Start with him lying. Isn't that ironic? I go from the Predators gallery with Russia and Venezuela to the sexual position of a time bomb. And with the time bomb, you start with him lying on the bed. And there's a tight squeeze. Once he is thrusting, pull your legs back together and cross your ankles. Kneel on the bed, facing each other, then get into a flow of lunging backward and forward, leaning into your planted feet. And then there's the submarine. Download the blank card at cosmopolitan.com. Then write in moments like, we are going to be there for this community because they need us. As if, that's what, those that got the 29 went into. Lisa Borders. The first time I ran for office in Atlanta, people said, "You're from the business sector." I could apply my knowledge because the pattern was exactly the same. You don't have to be 60 years old to lead, but you have to do the other two first. That's from the book of Luke, but for those who aren't religious, it's just pay it forward. Everywhere I've worked, there's been a recurring theme: offer access and opportunity to awaken. Lauren Balsamo. Blame the lack of hydrators as well as modifying ingredients like silica and kaolin, which suck moisture from skin. The name may vary: lip paint, cream, lacquer, varnish, but it's a long-wearing, mostly matte, opaque lip color with a liquid base. Regular lipsticks contain hydrators like oil and glycerin and fillers like beeswax, which help create the bullet shape. Lauren Balsamo. A beauty tip. A beauty tip with the cast of Empire for the females: don't share the same space. A beauty tip with the cast of Empire for both male and female: let's see. I would say what can I say? I don't have anything to say except, just continue keeping your own boundaries. Empire Stars, slip into the season's top coats and show us a thing or two about slaying both the fashion game and the dating game. Beauty tip. You hear stories of people who are so thin and fit, and they've been told to lose weight. What's the best sex toy that gives super powerful O's? The thing is, the bag isn't that bad. Mine is the size of an iPad mini and the color of ballet slippers. Brunette, I rather focus on beauty dilemmas than my ostomy bag. A lighter body. The logic behind lipstick. Botanique. Jessica Madeline. Modern technology has made it possible to connect with your soul scent by tapping your screen. Each box features a Pinterest style photo. Beach Walk has a seascape by the fireplace, a roaring furnace. It drummed up excitement through an online campaign bearing the tagline, "Too Scandalous for Stores," and invited customers to get a free sample delivered in a little black envelope. The brand ran out of stock. Unlike what happens with paper, the heat and chemistry of your skin ultimately affects the end result. That's why for $10, Fleur sends you 2-cent samples lasting about a week each. Like your Pinterest board, these photos and songs are all clues about how you want to live. The brand has Pinterest boards and 8 tracks playlists for each of the fragrance personalities too. It may also be the reason the once booming celebrity perfume craze has slowed down. Lauren Balsamo. How does Bobbi Brown celebrate her empire's 25th birthday? Inspired by her favorite indulgences, the limited edition collection will satisfy every beauty craving. Lash-hugging bristles add definition, interlocking ones separate, and a ball tip details with small corners. The brand's signature scents now come in oils that you dab on 2 cross points. So sexy. Our faves, this lipstick box and palette adorned with moon snaps. Lauren Balsamo. Cold stimulates skin, allowing it to better absorb active ingredients, making a cooling mask great before serum. Beauty. So questions. A few questions. One of which, how will you help women get the health care they need, including birth control and abortion? Again, it's back to what I was saying about the predator and how it being kind of a pressing issue. It impacts certain issues such as women's health. So how will you help women get the health care they need, including birth control and abortion? Um, First, like the 29, we expect to continue to work as the 29 work with to removing this predator. Um, in placing the predator where it's appropriate for the predator to be placed, um, which can be challenging when you have responsibility for different types of people in different types of places. So that's first. One thing that Trump did with regards to that is um, discontinuing the employment of Flynn with regards to the FBI. So that was a step. That was progress with regards to helping women get the health care they need. And I'm saying that because sometimes I've sometimes it seemed like it's seemed like sometimes that people, when they want change, they're not looking in other places that is impacting or getting them what they want, like relocating or discontinue or reassigning Flint. They're looking at, like, how is it helping Planned Parenthood? How are we getting $100,000 in funding every year or every month, as opposed to other things that are impacting them getting what they want. So in addition to bringing justice with regards to the predator, also bringing awareness to groups such as Women's Health when they're seeking change, for them to encouraging them to be open to being aware, open to other ways that information and help can come to them, and come from them, or come from other places and come to them. Another thing is with artists such as Swiss Beats and Jay-Z, with regards to, some people believe that when the ovum is fertilized, that removing that ovum is a homicide, and that type of abortion is a homicide. So using artists like Jay-Z and Swiss Beats to bring awareness to the idea that it's not that simple. Because sometimes, what our experience has brought to us is that it could be misidentified. The ovum can be misidentified as fertilized. So that is another way. Those two artists, among others. And I'm using, in addition to them, Alicia Keys, Beyonce, with regards to birth control, and just bringing awareness to um, non the idea of non-traditional paths, when it comes to birth control. So using artists, all that to say, using artists that are already out there, um, that's out there making progress with regards to these issues. We'll continue to support their efforts with regards to progress, and by making decisions, such as letting go Flynn with regards to the FBI to help women get the healthcare they need. Next question. How would you address complaints of unconstitutional policy in communities like those investigated by the Justice Department? How would you address complaints of unconstitutional policing in communities like those investigated by the Justice Department? Unconstitutional policing. What immediately comes to mind when it comes to unconstitutional policing is situations regarding invasion of privacy, situations regarding improper search and seizure. Um, we will address that using preventive policy or preventive policy. So basically, we're going to counteract your version of unconstitutional policing with our version of preventive policing. And we feel as though it is currently being used with regards to progress and justice, and we foresee that it will continue. Preventive policy will continue to be used to counteract what you call unconstitutional policing. Angela Ledgerwood, the red car. Behind the wheel, Leah discovers the woman she lost herself. Worst dates ever. Madison. When the bill came, he paid for his half entirely in change. Oh, that's kind of cute, though. He paid for it in change. Did you want to change your part? That's kind of cute. Anyhow, paid for it entirely in change, and that was your worst date ever? I mean, come on, Madison. Okay, number one, resting bitch face. These pups DGAF about the National Dog Show, which was November 19th to 20th, but they sure deserve medals for giving good side eye. Promote your own pooch, throwing shade by tagging your pic with hashtag Cosmotivation. I would so hashtag Rufus. These tall bearded irises put on an insanely colorful show. Do one thing better. Just one. 10 Best Beaches by Larry Bleiberg. Do a little horseback riding on the beach, then head to town for culture at the art galleries and community theater. At Brookgreen Gardens, you can observe local wildlife like alligators and osprey from a pontoon boat, then roam the sculpture garden. Don't miss Friday nights when this laid-back beach town bustles with the farmers and fish market, sack races, and volleyball. For a change from a beach motel, try Sycamore Mineral Springs Resort with hillside hot tubs and easy access to a hiking trail that leads to the beach. Learn about marine wildlife at the Blue Ocean Discovery Center. Then head over to the pier to catch a classic New England fishing charter or whale watching excursion. Another question. Is it better to put a bandage on a cut or let it get some air? I personally, sometimes I don't like my blood to just be all out in the air like that. So I like and not just any bandage, a cute bandage. I think it's better to put a bandage on it. That's me. Lunch blocks. Get to know your butcher and who they're buying their meat from. Yeah. David Bonham recipes. Bake 10 minutes or until marshmallows are golden. 1 egg, lightly beaten. Add sage leaves. Cook 4 minutes or until just starting to crisp and butter is browned. Transfer sage to paper towels. Bring to boiling. Transfer berry mixture to prepared dish. They're flash frozen in season, and you don't have to bother with pitting. Sam and Trisha considered adding a third bedroom, but instead built a deck where they could entertain. The idea is to eventually have the bougainvillea fill out the wire netting and grow across the slat so it feels like another room, Sam says. Plant them by your patio, where you can ponder the intricate details of each fascinating flower up close. Eric Liskey, Passiflora times Volati. Together, but not too together. Okay. It's about bringing beauty to everything you do. Fresh beauty. The bold 2015 Cameron. Presenting a kitchen for those who cook outside the book. Chris Edmonds. All I knew was that he'd been taken prisoner after the Battle of the Bulge, and I was curious to learn more. The terrain was rugged, believed to be lightly defended by the Germans, and thus ideal for training the untested American troops. On December 16, the German army launched a surprise attack, a major offensive that became known as the Battle of the Bulge. The men who weren't killed were captured and taken to Bad Orb, Germany, on Christmas Day to the POW camp Stalag IXB. Things that are too bad to share. By then, they had been starved for a month. They wore the same clothes they'd been captured in. It had to be a trick. It was about Richard Nixon on trying to buy an apartment in New York City after he'd resigned and left the White House. Though he was a lifelong Democrat and didn't share Nixon's political views, he was appalled by the blackballing and sold Nixon his Manhattan townhouse. He said the German commandant would have had him and all the other Jewish GIs killed in January 1945 if it hadn't been for their brave officer, Master Sergeant. I went back to January 1945 in his diaries. The next evening, there was an announcement over the loudspeaker that only the Jewish POWs were to fall out the following morning to be counted. Your father wasn't even shaking, but the commandant was. Not a day goes by that I don't thank God for him. He was the first American soldier to be recognized as such and the first of the righteous to have rescued American Jews. Chris Edmonds. Carol Wallace. As with a lot of major studio releases, there will be a book to accompany it, a novel with a picture of Ben-Hur himself and a chariot on the cover. What I didn't have was familiarity with the book that started it all because Ben-Hur, in its original version, is a tough slog for today's readers. Lou claimed the orders were unclear, but that didn't matter. He was stripped of active command, and the brilliant trajectory of his military career was halted. The book was only moderately successful, but Lou kept writing. Lou had considered himself a Christian, but he didn't go to church, didn't pray regularly, and barely knew the Bible. And he decided the best way to educate himself would be to write a novel set at the time of Christ about a young man whose life is changed by Jesus. And though the film versions have tended to focus on the chariots shared race, Lou's book, like my version, goes beyond that to include the hero's redemptive encounters with Jesus. As boys, they were inseparable, but Rome's heavy-handed occupation of Jerusalem, along with merciless arrogance, now comes between the young men. That race is not the end of the book, though. Carol Watts. Now for Donald Tobin Smith. I had no reason to believe that today would be different, but the erosion of his memory saddened me more than anything. Aren't they like blessings, gifts to be kept forever? I remember the time when I was 6, terrified of jumping off the high dive at the city pool, standing there with my toes curled around the edge of the board while everyone stared. Go back to your father. Daddy was still in the chair by the window in earth. Donald Thomas Smith. Carolyn M. Brown. Not only was it her chance to catch up with what's going on in their lives, whether they were dating or having babies, but to find out what was going on with their hair. Their tale is one of commercial evolution, taking a brand from the kitchen table of a Brooklyn broomstone to the shelves of global retailers such as Target and CVS. The enterprising duo managed to build a multi-million-dollar company from scratch. Branch would join a panel of other Black-owned hair and beauty business owners to discuss making big bucks in specialized markets at the Black Enterprise Entrepreneurs Summit. By 2006, the sisters were deep into consumer manufacturing, moving production into a warehouse. By 2010, a call came from Target, landing nationwide distribution in its retail stores. The business moved into the parlor floor of the brownstone dwelling the sisters shared. In 2010, Miss Jessie's moved out the brownstone into its current Manhattan location with an old world look of decorative moldings, crystal chandeliers, high ceilings, and wood floors, but with a few accents of colors from Miss Jessie's packaging. Part of that branding also is the book Miss Jessie's Creating a Successful Business from Scratch, Naturally. Kevin D. Johnson. Entrepreneurs must conduct business through customer discovery. And that's quite awesome because you have your business, you have these different products out, and you, in a way, entrust your product and trust your brand to your customers. So when your customers discover something, it behooves you to pay attention. Another question. What is the biggest misconception that people have about Charles Cobb? Maybe that he is a Klansman. No, I'm just joking. Another question. Why did you write your latest book, Good Profit? My guess is that Good Profit was written because there were a lot of child molesters trying to profit in ways that were unbecoming an ideal businessman. So being a professional in the business industry, I found that one way that I can contribute to combating, well, it was found that one way to contribute to combating those type of offenders from misrepresenting themselves as ideal businessmen, that this book, Good Profit, will be published. From your seat as the chairman and CEO, how do you manage to balance between your guiding principles as a person and a business leader and how you're perceived? So again, that question is from your seat as a chairman and CEO, how do you manage to balance between your guiding principles as a person and a business leader and how you're perceived? So I guess the question is merging person with business leader and then separating that person as a business leader from being perceived outside of that. And how do you manage it and how do you balance that? Well, um, that could be quite of a challenge because when you're public, when what you do is public, when your business is public, sometimes that merger of you as a person, a business leader, it's a merger. And there isn't a separation. So how you are out there publicly is how you are as a person. That is who you are. Um, there's no separation, when that is the situation. So um, when there has to be a balance between that, and there is the possibility of having um, of being not public, then that's how that's done. So you'll find yourself in a situation that um, you couldn't be merged. You know, someone couldn't blast you publicly on the radio, on the show about who you are, not that, because that's not who you are. You're already out there publicly, so who you are publicly is what they have, what they can talk about, what they can blast you about on. Anything outside of that would be a violation of your privacy, and that would be back to that unconstitutional policy. At one point you want to blast somebody else for unconstitutional policy, but when you try to go into their life that isn't public, then you are violating their right to privacy, and you're violating their constitutional right. So part of is stopping it, like that quote that Oprah Winfrey would say, be the change you want to see in the world. You would stop doing that yourself. So if I had that, you know, that persona, that if I had that, then that's how I would balance it. I would have, this is who anything outside of that would be who got me, that does it, that don't have that, it isn't public. They know what's private because it's private, and if, then you have to deal with, who got me publicly because you want to make that public when it's not supposed to be. So that's really how that should be, and how that should go, and how that should be balanced. So we just manage it with a little truth, with a little discernment, and yeah, that's really the best way to balance it. How to Be the Best Employee Ever by Courtney Conley. As millennials surpass Generation X to become the largest group in the American workplace, it's clear that a large disconnect exists between what employers want and what the majority of professionals think they need to bring to the table. Below are the top skills that professionals in the human resources and talent management space suggest candidates need in order to be the best employee ever. What you need to know about voting restrictions before the election. She gave back the title, but she still wears the crown. Vanessa Williams on success starting over and saving the best love for last. Courtney Conley. After graduating with his Juris Doctor from Washington University School of Law in St. Louis, Butler took a position with Central Illinois Light Company, working in its government affairs, legal, and strategy departments. After moving to Maryland and establishing relationships with power players there, Butler was able to get the merger approved, and in December 2012, he was appointed to Senior Vice President of Legislation and External Affairs before stepping into his role as CEO of the company in March 2014. Now, with 2 years under his belt as head of a company that had record revenues of $29.4 billion in 2015, Butler is making his mark as BGE's first African American CEO. We see that we have to develop the next generation of leaders because we are only going to be as good as the people of the company. Not everyone is cut out to go to college, so I want those linemen to think about coming here to be employed. The biggest piece of this is really going out and recruiting those young engineers early at Morgan State University, which is the #1 HBCU engineering school, and making sure they want to come here and work. A lot of times I was the only minority, and although I embraced it, you have to be able to look up the ladder and say, I have a shot if I put in the work. I always say we are better when we bring different thoughts, values, and ideas to the table, and I have to walk that walk. I saw tech and how it met customer needs and how we have to change to meet their needs, not only today, but for tomorrow. We are entering a partnership with a tech solar company in the energy field, owned by Ray Lewis, called Power 52, to build a solar facility that will benefit low-income communities. With Power 52, we are not only going to build a solar facility, but we are also going to train people from the community on how to build solar panels, and those who do that will get a reduction in their monthly bill. Derek T. Dingle. The president of Daytona Beach, Florida-based Bethune-Cookman University, was struck by the comments of young demonstrators some 847 miles away who were responding to the death of Freddie Gray, allegedly at the hands of local police officers. The school system in Baltimore did an injustice to these young men because the truth of the matter is they're very bright, but had not been challenged, or the circumstances in life were simply not the best. For Jackson, who became president of BCU in 2013, such action exemplifies the institutional mission as well as communicates that such potential cannot be overlooked when building the nation's 21st century workforce. We build partnerships, not only locally, but throughout the state in key areas that are going to help us tackle this problem. Moreover, the administration has designed cross-discipline programs such as bringing together sports management, education, and health sciences. To impact K-12 by bolstering teacher effectiveness, BCU has joined the Volusia Center for Excellence in Education, or VCEE, with Stetson University, Volusia County Schools, and Luce Teacher Center. It has also obtained financial and technical support from other high-profile board members such as Michelle Carter-Scott, mothers of basketball stars Vince Carter and Shaquille O'Neal, who have given gifts tied to its legacy society. Jackson believes this multi-pronged approach will not only fortify the institution and serve as a model for other HBCUs, but most importantly, produce a similar impact BCU had on two young men from West Baltimore, the transformation of lives. Three ways to be the mentor every mentee needs. Now for Courtney Conley. Now, as a sports analyst for both the NFL Network and the Big Ten Network, at the Richmond, Virginia native breaks down his formula to having a successful backup plan and how he uses this platform to inspire the next generation. I really think young people need to think beyond sports when talking about being successful. I couldn't wait to retire, and I couldn't wait until the NFL was done. I try to always have a perspective and think a few steps ahead and try not to be surprised. The NFL has a broadcast boot camp that I went through, and it's a 4-day seminar where they run through all the technical aspects of being in broadcast. They give you a notebook full of contacts of everybody in the industry, and that's something that was very valuable to me. For aspiring guys who want to be an analyst, it obviously helps if you're a former player. You may have been told throughout your career that you are a great speaker, but you have to understand the value in going from being a person who is well spoken while being interviewed to having a talent to speak. This new form may be the best joy ever. Lessons from the BE 100s. And a question: how can entrepreneurs identify new markets and opportunities in order to grow the business? First, like I mentioned before, you have to set aside yourself. You have to set aside what you want to do, what you want to do, how your bank account wants to get more, how you want other people's bank accounts to get bigger, like your bank account got bigger. You have to set aside all of that first. And then allow yourself to be open to be in the community of entrepreneurs. And from that point, you might be identified as someone that entrepreneurs could go in and, you know, um, and contribute to your business, contributing to society. Stacy Tisdale, after the initial shock, quickly began to struggle with whether she should tell her 19-year-old son the news about his beloved grandmother. Often considered the sandwich generation, they are forced to balance the financial realities of aging parents and the demands of older children. When I turned 50, it got real, says commercial project manager at commercial communications company BT Americas, who together with her husband, a video and audio project manager, earns just under $161,000 a year while shouldering the bulk of her son's $54 annual tuition. First, they are caught between their larger counterparts. There are several financial shocks Gen Xers have gone through as they've become adults, says the vice president at AARP. Soon after, there was the tech bubble, and not a decade later, the housing crisis, she adds. It's important to get a pulse on an individual's risk tolerance, but generally speaking, and other members of Gen X should have at least 60% of their money in stocks and 40% in bonds. Says she's on track to meet a goal of having $1 million by the time she's 65 by sticking with Brooks' model. While Brooks recommends that all parents with children in elementary school save for their college education in a vehicle like a 529 plan, she also advises parents to not sacrifice your own retirement money or you'll be a burden to your child one day. She also recommends investigating options such as variable universal life insurance policies for your child since they build cash that can be invested in the financial markets and withdrawn without tax penalty for education costs. These policies can be expensive, so talk to a financial professional to learn more about how these work as the cash value is determined by the performance of the underlying investments. We've learned to be content with what we have and live by the motto, sacrifice now, save later. Stacy Tisdale. And now for Stacy Tisdale's tip of the month, how your student loan debt can reduce your tax bill. That means that many borrowers may not be aware of all the tax breaks Uncle Sam offers that can reduce the pressure on their bottom lines. If you're up to date on your taxes and fall into the 25% federal income tax bracket, that will translate into a $625 tax refund, says the CEO of the multi-lender marketplace, Credible. That reminds me yesterday, I caught a stage play. I missed the first 30 minutes because I was donating. But anyway, I missed the first 30 minutes of the play, which is called Shining Star. It was written by Roger Gregory. And my feelings on the play is that it presented issues. Like one issue was a character's named Justin Brooks, and his wife was pregnant. Her name was Robin, and she was reunited with her dad, whose name was Robert Ward. And this all took place in New York. Manhattan was mentioned, which is where Justin Brooks and the pregnant wife was staying. No, Brooklyn is where they were staying. Mr. Ward and his wife, which was their mother and father, were staying in Manhattan. So it introduced these issues. Mr. Ward, again, this play was located, was in Petersburg, Virginia. So it introduced these issues. Ward, in Manhattan, and being reunited in Brooklyn, play being presented in Petersburg, Virginia. Justin Brooks having a pregnant wife named Robin. So it introduced all these complexities and issues. But the question is, what are they, as being introduced, what are they as Because, and I mention all this because this is allegedly, is where the predator calls. So this is what the predator calls his home church. So, and they're introducing these issues. So, one, they got these issues, and they have the predator attempting to call it its home church. What are they as, are they just spectators with regards to abuse, and the abusers attempting to do it in God's home, in God's house, or what they consider the Lord's house, or what they consider God's house? Are they going to continue to be spectators? What are they like? What is, you're like, what is it? What are you? Where are you going from here? Derek T. Dingle is where we're going to next. She did, however, hold the vision that the old family tea recipe from Jamaica could make quite a splash in the bottled beverage market. Overwhelmed by the enormous student debt she would incur, Ellis Brown decided to drop out of college and return to her hometown of Detroit to start a business. I am pro-education and plan on going back to my degree, but once I realized how student loans work and how much more you'd actually end up paying back and how much debt I would walk away with, I couldn't accept that, she says. To mass produce the beverage, Ellis Brown contracted a bottler but could not find any companies willing to undergo the labor-intensive process of hand steeping our herbs, so we had to get into a space and buy our own production company, she recalls. This was back when my labels were flyers that were taped to the bottle. After being amused, the manager gave her a lecture on Whole Foods' arduous vendor selection process and sent her the thick application that required, among other information, that she list ingredients, all of which had to be natural and absent of high fructose corn syrup. So I had to become the chemist myself. She then expanded her reach when Whole Foods opened its first store in the heart of Detroit, where Ellis Allen eventually became a top-selling local brand. Carolyn M. Brown. Small business owners are constantly being told that they need to be online and engaged in social media, but how can they receive a return on their investment in such efforts? CEO of Tyler New Media has successfully leveraged social media to move Black and MarriedWithKids.com to become the largest independent African American marriage and parenting site on the web. Social media isn't to build a sale anymore, it's to build a relationship, to build a habit and frequency. There has to be a shift in the mind of the business owner to how do I take this relationship with my customer to the next level to get them to buy more. 4 blunders to avoid when pitching your business to influencers. This is what I want, is one of them. She gave back the title but still wears the crown. How to be the best employee ever. How to best bounce back in business. So the actress, 30, stars as a hairstylist in the new TBS series Clip. We'll bring the iced tea, you bring the conversation. Now for Michael Simon. Growing up in Ohio, we had dinner every night around the table, and it was the greatest learning experience. I want to be a part of the party, Cut the backbone out of the bird or ask your butcher for a spatchcock chicken and press fillet. Use a brick to weigh down the chicken. Lisa is the best thing that ever happened to me, says Patrick. I know I will never be the same person I was, says Lisa, at a Christmas party in Milwaukee. Now with Steve Helling. After standing by her troubled boyfriend, Scott Disick, for years, ends the relationship after he is photographed with another woman. For Scott Disick, the most consistent part of their roller coaster romance played out on camera for 8 years for her family's reality series, Keeping Up with the Kardashians, has been the drama. Over the 4th of July weekend, photos emerged of Disick cozying up to a young brunette in the south of France while at home taking care of their 3 young children. He was supposed to be taking some time to process things, presumably with the end game of fixing their relationship. The bottom line is, Scott threw it all away. Multiple sources confirm that Disick, 32, had struggled with issues relating to partying too hard. His acknowledged alcohol abuse became the source of nonstop fights with Kardashian, 36, on and off camera. Then things would go back to the way they were, says a source close to the couple. But it was Disick's brazen behavior in France. He was photographed drinking and caressing LA-based stylists that convinced that the relationship could not be saved. It was becoming a poor environment for the kids to be raised in, says the friend. Disick was overwhelmed by the idea of being a family man, says the source, and has his own fan group. The self-anointed Lord Disick, who is known for flashy cars and ostentatious style, seemed to be increasingly trouble. Two brief rehab stays followed, but Disick checked himself out each time. Now, despite her wealth and the support of her famous family, she is facing a hard new reality. Life as a single mom of three. Bottom line, her children are her first priority, says the pal. A graduate of England's Northern College, Maria Torian Baralo, with the Queen and George, wore her school uniform, white gloves, and all. Kate, Queen of the Royal Throwback. The Milton crown was previously used by the Queen for her younger sons, Princes Edward and Andrew, left with Anne, Charles, and Prince Philip in 1965. Charles was baptized in a replica of the 1841 gown William wore with Diana and Charles in 1982. Reported vie to include Mary Green, Jennifer Garner. But for Ben Affleck and Jennifer Garner, their visit to Baker's Bay Golf and Ocean Club, a private community in the Abacos where they own a home, was a time of mourning. The family felt it was important to be together. They were together as a family that day, says a source close to the couple. Sitting on steps near the pink sand beach, the two looked miserable. But the split follows years of mounting tensions, unhappiness, and attempts to work through their problems in couples therapy, according to more than a dozen friends, colleagues, and other close sources who spoke to People. Affleck alluded to the strain when he called marriage to Garner the best kind of work in his speeches at the 2013 Oscars. Affleck and Garner both battled, and he really battled to try and save the marriage, but ultimately it was the best thing for the kids and for him and Jen. The two plan to use a mediator to negotiate the division of their assets, estimated well over $100 million, and for now, both will remain living on the couple's 8,800 square foot estate in LA, which they bought for $17.5 million in 2009. But she has always been and continues to be the strongest person I know. So what was the breaking point? She would not give up unless there was a good reason. Several sources close to Garner say the allegations of infidelity, which Affleck vehemently denies. Other troubling behavior by Affleck, including gambling and drinking, weighed heavily in Garner's decision. She loved Ben, says another friend, but there comes a time when you have to say enough is enough and take care of yourself. When you're told you're not good enough, you start to believe it. Some of Affleck's behavior has long been tabloid fodder. Affleck himself acknowledged that Garner was a stabilizing force after his life with Lopez had become tabloid fodder. She was clean-cut and seemed to be attracted to that part of him, the bad boy. Trying to balance a career of her own with her kids' activities and running their household, Garner embraced domesticity in LA. She's probably the best mom I know. He didn't grow up with a present father, so his biggest fear was being the dad that only saw his kids on the weekends. He's your basic, tall. So now I'm going to the photos. He's your basic, tall, dark, and handsome. On a date before their Turks and Caicos nuptials, they made a conscious decision to be together as a family, says a source close to the couple. These are things that they have consciously done because they want to make sure that this is as easy as they can make it on their kids, says the source. The couple attended Affleck's brother Casey's birthday party shortly before Ballard was born. Just a few weeks after Ballard's birth, the new parents celebrated the holidays in Georgia. Kim Hubbard, the best new books. The Emotional Lives of Animals Who Knew? A Birth Mother's Brave Memoir and a Ravishing Tale of Modern India. Be 30 billion strong. Patrick Gomez. Kunis, 31, and Kutcher, 37, who were married officially before the July 4th bash, kicked things off with a small poolside lunch at their Beverly Hills home on July 2nd. It really seemed to be all about the baby, the first source heirs of the couple who first met in 1998 when they were cast as love interests on that '70s show, but didn't begin dating until 2012 after Kutcher separated with his first wife, Demi Moore. Kim Coles, I didn't expect to be so emotional with a single actress 53, says in Walking Down the Aisle to McIver, 41, at their intimate beach wedding on June 17th in the Dominican Republic. The best looks at Paris Haute Couture. New, the blushed nudes. We never want to leave the house because the dogs are there, says Lance Bass, 36, who shares his Sherman Oaks, California home with his husband, artist Michael Turchin, 28, and their three rescues, Lily, a terrier mix, and Dingo and Foster, Beagle Lab mixes. George, in and out of the ladies' room. That's the best time to meet women. George. Then I got an incredible tan, and the next party I was hit on by three girls. I never took the chance of losing the tan after that. Mary Green and Michelle Tarver. He got himself into the best shape of his life, as in 1,000 sit-ups twice a day, for his role as a boxer in the drama Southpaw, but for two nights in early July, made for one seriously convincing early. As hapless Flora Seymour in Little Shop of Horrors, you tap into an innocence as the actor, tucking into brunch in Greenwich Village shortly after his off-Broadway run became the most exclusive summer ticket in New York City. To be totally honest, that's very easy for me to tap into. That curiosity has helped shape an eclectic career in which the 34-year-old New Yorker has established himself as one of Hollywood's most daring leading men, from his Oscar-nominated turn in 2005's Brokeback Mountain to his work as a chilling voyeur in last year's Nightcrawler. I would love for it not to be fictional, he says, noting his close relationships with the daughters of his sister actress. And that's it. But that's not it for Patrick Gomez. But when she performed her Grammy Award-winning hit, The House That Built Me, which her husband of 4 years, Blake Shelton, originally suggested she record at the Cheyenne Frontier Days in Wyoming on July 18th, it was the singer herself who got choked up. But friends say the union, which made Shelton and Amber one of country music's highest profile and most beloved couples, was challenged from the start, both by tabloid scrutiny and by busy, often conflicting schedules. Shelton filed for divorce at the beginning of July in Oklahoma, but their demanding schedules began taking a toll. It was frustrating, and she didn't want to be part of that machine. She literally has flown across the country to get me for one night and would get up and go home the next morning. She has always been the one to go through hell to make sure we spend time together. Friends say that despite his work commitments, Shelton prided himself on trying to be a good guy. She's doing the best she can. The neighbors there are really proud of us, but they treat us like anybody else, which is awesome, says Amber. The best new books, Kim Hubbard. Mary Kubica, Pretty Baby. The sense of danger intensifies as mysteries surrounding both the girl and her benefactor slowly emerge. Patrick Gomez. I'm just good at pretending to be. As for her decision to be open about her bisexuality, says, I haven't made a concrete decision about anything. Stars dish on when romance went terribly, terribly wrong. The Bachelorette's contestants dish behind the drama. Michelle Tarver. When Meredith Grace Duggar was born on July 19, the famous family grew yet again, but there was a very different vibe in the family's hometown of Tontitown, Arkansas. Josh subsequently apologized. Two of his sisters came forward as victims and said they had long ago forgiven their brother. Their thinking is they put this behind them ages ago, so why wouldn't the rest of the world? The insider says that 50, has decried the release of the documents as liberal media conspiracy to bring his family down, and he thinks the network should have shown more support. He absolutely wanted to be back on TV and was never thrilled about the show, suddenly shifting focus. The Duggars want to return to TV because they truly believe it was part of God's plan for them to spread the word about their faith, says the source. With God's grace, Josh, our daughters, and our entire family overcame a terrible situation, Jim Bob and Michelle said on July 16th. Michael J. Fox on almost quitting acting before landing the role of Marty McFly in Back to the Future at the film's 30th anniversary cast reunion. Starts with a bite of grass, ends with a bite of bliss. She read between the lines. Burgers, tacos, saved by the book. The best ingredients make the best dishes. Beauty that gives back. Not every day can be beautiful, even if you're lucky to be alive. And do you know it? Are you biotic? For your board team, Melissa De La Cruz. So Christine Kapazewski, we broke up, got back together, and broke up again. I have the best divorce of anyone I've heard of. Books like mine don't get as many reviews and probably won't win any prizes, but they entertain the pants off of hundreds of thousands of women. There's a part of me with every book that thinks, what would it have meant for me to have had this book when I was a kid? The Lily's Bigfoot is about bullying and body image and girls who don't fit in. I have these pinch me moments when I realize I got to be the thing I wanted to be growing up. That's awesome. I got to be. I have these pinch me moments when I realize I got to be the thing I got to be it. I like that. I like that quote. I have these pinch me moments when I realize I got to be the thing I wanted to be growing up. That's kind of cute. That's because I remember writing, I want to be an actor. No, not an actor, an actress. What else? A model and a businesswoman. Not just any businesswoman, but a businesswoman that wears tennis shoes with her business suits. Isn't that cute? Yeah. Best bathroom. Nicole Saporita. Why get out of bed to turn lights on or off when it's much easier to control or look in on things from wherever you are, phone in hand? Do things like double checking that doors are locked from the beach in Bermuda. It's about to be a thing. Use chic storage in the basement. You can win beauty loot. Discover a daily beauty treatment for radiant skin. Woven into everything from botanical booties to colorful coats, these threads add a timeless handmade touch. The active way to brighten skin. See brighter, smoother skin in just 1 week. April Ponzino, Beauty Tech. Everyone's hair has a biological set growth phase of between 3 and 10 years, and this plastic hair you take determines hair's maximum length, says hair research scientist Thomas L. Dawson, PhD. In our testing, we found the color recommendation to be accurate and flattering, and there was good variety. Believe, the only cheese is 100% real, natural cheese. And now we're at our outer network spotlight. And because the first one that was chosen was medically, it was a medical contribution. Another one came up. I decided to do 2 network spotlights since Even though they're totally non-related in terms of symptoms, I guess, but related in terms of industry, I chose to do both. So our first one is AbbVie or AbbVie that administers adalimumab. These serious, or is also known as Humira. These serious infections include tuberculosis or TB and infections caused by viruses, fungi, or bacteria that have spread throughout the body. Your doctor should test you for TB before starting Humira. Your doctor should check you closely for signs and symptoms of TB during treatment with Humira. Also, most people will be treated for Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis with another medicine called Imurin or azathioprine or parenteral 6-mercaptopurine or 6-MP. So what should I tell my doctor before taking Humira? If you're a part of, if you identify with the 29 that we mentioned with regards to the Predators Gallery, tell him that you prefer, tell your doctor that you prefer adalimumab. And if you're with the 3 that we mentioned with the Predators Gallery, tell him that you prefer Humira and that you want it separated from adalimumab. That's what you should tell your doctor. But for the purposes of the show, tell them that you would prefer adalimumab and not Humira. This is based on your condition to be treated, and that's apathy. Our second out-of-network spotlight is Bravecto. Precautions. Bravecto has not been shown to be effective for 12 weeks duration in puppies less than 6 months of age. The most frequently reported adverse reaction in dogs in the Bravecto and active control groups was vomiting. The edema improved progressively through the day and has resolved without medical intervention by the next morning. Our second out-of-network spotlight is Bravecto. So our out-of-network spotlights are AbbVie or AbbVie and Bravecto. So now we do have some time for the book. May not get through the whole thing, but we'll see. And it is Christmas A to Z. We are approaching Christmas. I have several things that I want for Christmas, but it's like not that close by. But one thing that I will be participating in is the meeting, which will be December 24th at 9 and 11 at the Creighton campus. And so I will be participating in that one. And yeah, so I did kind of, that's how that ended. But there is a Am Street campus that is located in Petersburg, and they will have their own production as well. And we will have a production there as well. Fortunately for this particular congregation, there are 3 campuses, 1 in Petersburg and 2 in Richmond. So Christmas A to Z, I wrap the wonder of seasonal words in phrases. So I guess before we get into it, to quote Dickens, I have endeavored in this ghostly little book to raise the ghost of an idea which shall not put my readers out of humor with themselves, with each other, with the season, or with me. He had written pamphlets and given talks on the subject, but through A Christmas Carol, he reached a worldwide audience and will continue to reach them for generations to come. Christmas Carol has been adapted to film, television, and radio, with perhaps the most critically acclaimed film version being the 1951 British version, entitled Scrooge, and starring Alastair Sim. So what was that? He had endeavored this ghostly little book that would not put you out of humor with yourselves, each other, the season, or with him. That is awesome. You know, you can laugh at something without being offensive to yourself, others, the season, or the one delivering the joke. All right, so let's see what we have here. Um, so from A to Z, we have a Christmas story based on the semi-autobiographical writings of writer actor who also narrated the film. The central character is Ralphie Parker, a boy who wants more than anything for Santa to bring him a red Ryder BB gun for Christmas, in spite of his parents' warnings that he will shoot his eye out. And abide. In legal terms, to abide by something means to be obedient to or act in accordance with, to abide by the court's rulings. So, in other words, like for instance, the creditor is to abide by this preliminary court order as it relates to family as well as to petition. Abominable snowman, also known as the Yeti. The abominable snowman is the Bigfoot of the Himalayas. Oh my gosh, Yeti is also the abominable snowman? Like, where have I been? Adorer. The popular carol is rumored to have been the favorite Christmas song of U.S. President Dwight D. Eisenhower. Advent wreath. The second candle, which is lit on the second Sunday of Advent, is generally called the Bethlehem candle. The third Sunday of Advent is observed with the shepherd's candle. And the fourth Sunday of Advent, and the fourth Sunday of Advent is observed by the lighting of the angel's candle. So I don't know if you're to assume that since they said the second candle is lit on the second Sunday, I don't know if you're to also assume that the third candle is lit on the third Sunday, that the fourth candle is lit on the fourth Sunday, that the third candle is also known as the shepherd's candle, and that the fourth Sunday that is lit is also known as the angel's candle. So maybe that's what that means. So that way the second candle is on the second Sunday is the Bethlehem candle, and then you have the shepherds and you have the angels. So that's 2, 3, and 4. Hallelujah. We're in A to Z and we're still in A. Since it appears most often in scripture in the book of Psalms, it may originally have been a call to worship. Aluminum. No matter how much you love your traditional tree, a rotating aluminum tree, complete with the magic of a color wheel, will bring a smile to the baby boomer who recalls Christmas past. Aluminum. Angel. Some people are very wary about turning away the stranger, but who knows but that in doing so, an angel may be turned away. Anna. According to scripture, the prophetess Anna was often to be found at the temple serving God with prayers and fasting. Her longed for hope was realized when Joseph and Mary brought the infant Jesus to the temple to be dedicated. Anthem. Early anthems tended to be simple so that the words could be heard clearly. Apostles' Creed. Whether it was actually written by the apostles themselves is unknown. And for what we have there are slightly different versions of the Apostles' Creed, but in essence it affirms, I believe in God, the Father Almighty, maker of heaven and earth, and in Jesus Christ, his only Son, our Lord, who was conceived by the Holy Spirit, born of the Virgin Mary, suffered under Pontius Pilate, was crucified, dead, and buried. I believe in the Holy Spirit, the Holy Catholic Church, the communion of saints, the forgiveness of sins, the resurrection of the body, and that life everlasting. Apostles' Creed. Apparel. The music to deck the halls is believed to be Welsh in origin, dating as far back as the 16th century. And apples and stockings. In simpler times, children would hang their stockings by the fireplace and wake on Christmas mornings to find apples, oranges, and nuts in their stockings as a reward from Santa Claus for being a good little girl, a good little boy or girl. Aramaic language. Aramaic is most probably the language that was spoken by Jesus. Some of the phrases he uttered, oh, I'm sorry, Aramaic language, let's do that again. Aramaic is a group of Semitic languages, still spoken today in some communities, such as Assyrian communities, but considered to be an endangered language. Aramaic is the primary language of the Talmud, and large sections of the biblical books of Daniel and Ezra were written in Aramaic. Archelaus. Archelaus was the son of Herod the Great and the brother of Herod Antipas. Atonement. He has taken our place and paid for our sins, making it possible for us to be forgiven and reinstated as God's children. To atone means to become at one with. Augustus Caesar. Gaius Julius Caesar Octavianus, born Gaius Octavius, later known as Octavianus, English Octavian, was an ambitious Roman who made the best possible use of his tenuous connection to Julius Caesar. This was a man who knew how to make the best of his situation, quash his enemies, and climb to power. While Julius Caesar had demonstrated clemency in his victories, his adopted son and heir, Octavian, savagely butchered Caesar's son by Queen Cleopatra Caesarion. Octavian made certain by the slaughter of Julius Caesar's son that he would remain Caesar's only heir. Wow. Auld Lang Syne. Robert Burns claimed to have discovered the song being sung by an old man, but at the time, it was customary to claim certain works to be traditional in order to give them a certain cachet. It is doubtful that the melody used today is the same as the poet intended, but there is little doubt that the melody is pure and traditional. Babes in Toyland. In 1961, it was remade by Disney and starred Annette Funicello, an original Musketeer, a pop singer best known for marrying Frank Sinatra's daughter, Ray Bolger the Scarecrow from the 1939 film The Wizard of Oz, and Edwin. Now we're in the B's. Balthazar. Although the New Testament does not specify the number of wise men who traveled together, readers assume there were three because the text mentions three gifts they brought with them. The name Balthazar is also a variation on the name Belshazzar, a Babylonian king who can be found in the book of Daniel. Beatitudes, the. Each blessing begins with the phrase, blessed are. Oh, my bad. Beatitudes, the. Some scholars translate each beatitude as an exclamation, such as, "Oh, the bliss of," which is basically like saying, "Happy are those who." Begotten. To beget something is to procreate, sire, or cause to exist. In the New Testament, Jesus is described as God's only begotten Son. Belfry. In slang usage, it can refer to the head or mind, such as referring to someone whose ideas seem to be nonsense as having bets in the belfry. Believe. The intent is to encourage the beholder to believe in Santa Claus, a fictional being. Christians believe in the one whose birthday is celebrated on Christmas Day. Bells. Bells provide a happy way to usher in the Christmas season and announce the birth of Jesus Christ. Belly. In a famous Christmas poem, Santa is said to have a round little belly that shakes when he laughs like a bowl full of jelly. He's not worried about cholesterol, either the good or the bad kind. No one wants him to be the next successful extreme makeover. Yeah, it's kind of funny. Bethlehem. Most importantly, Jesus was born there, fulfilling the prophecy that proclaimed his birth in Bethlehem. Jesus, the bread of life, was born in Bethlehem, which means house of bread. Betrothal. In biblical times, a betrothal was a promise or contract for a future marriage. It could be compared to what we term an engagement, but it was much more closely linked with marriage. The most important betrothal mentioned in the Bible was the betrothal of Joseph and Mary, the mother of Jesus. Mary was already betrothed to Joseph when she conceived Jesus by the power of the Holy Spirit. By law, when Mary was found to be with child, Joseph could have ended the engagement and had Mary put to death. Betrothed. Engaged to be married. Mary was betrothed to Joseph, the person to whom someone is engaged. Joseph was the betrothed of Mary. Bible. The Bible is a collection of sacred books uniquely inspired by God. In addition to being an unsurpassed collection of wisdom on every topic of life, from family to money, the Bible contains all the guidelines for living a truly meaningful life, a life with purpose that will leave a lasting impact. The Bible is also incredibly unique in the fact that each of its separate books, which were written by more than 30 different people over a period of more than 1,500 years, point to a central theme, a single story unlike any other story ever told. The Bible chronicles the story of a loving God on a continuing quest to win back his creation after all of humankind rebelled against him to go their own way. This story culminates with God sending his own Son into the world to be born in human form in order to become a living example for those who want to be reconciled to God. But God's Son, Jesus, doesn't just point the way back to God, he provides it. He allows his earthly life to be taken. The Christmas celebration is actually our way of commemorating the day God sent his own Son to be born into the world to provide the way for all to be sons and daughters of God. Bible, books of the Bible is made up of two major sections known as the Old Testament and the New Testament. The Old Testament tells the story of human history from the time of creation until about 400 years before the birth of God's Son, Jesus. For instance, much of Jesus' life was revealed beforehand to Old Testament prophets. This becomes incredibly clear once you realize that everything in the Bible points to Jesus. Even though the Bible is bound as a single volume, it is not a single book. In fact, the word Bible is derived from the Latin term biblia, meaning library. The Bible contains books of history, law, prophecy, poetry, gospels, and even letters written by a few of the fathers of the early Christian church. Here is a brief look at the types of books in the Bible, starting with the Old Testament. Bicycle. If you've ever assembled a bicycle for your child on Christmas Eve or simply had to sneak one into the house under the tree, then you belong to that group of unsung heroes and heroines who are brave enough to tackle instructions, tighten gaskets, screw things together, and take things apart. Also, a special boy or girl can squeal with delight on Christmas morning. Black Friday. While most folks believe this is the busiest shopping day of the season, statistics favor the Saturday just before Christmas. Nevertheless, the savvy consumer will wear her most comfortable shoes, have credit cards ready, and make sure she's covered by insurance, just in case she's trumped by others trying to beat her to the door busting sales. Blitzen. Traditionally, the poem has been attributed to, but some experts believe that it was actually written by oh, Blitzen was originally Blixen, Dutch, but was changed by Moore in later versions to the German Blitzen, which means lightning. Blitzen makes a more contemporary appearance in the popular Christmas song from 1949, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, sung by Boar's Head. The Boar's Head tradition is an ancient British custom in which a boar was sacrificed for the Yuletide feast. Isn't it like there's like a business called Boar's Head, and they like put out food and stuff like that? I guess so. Anybody, like some offender wouldn't just be like, oh, I can just, look, it is a boar's head. See, I cut the boar's head. Like, I have a Yuletide feast. But I guess so, just, to protect the boar, for some nasty offender trying to have his head. They're trying to give his head, like a zoophiliac. But anyway, different story, different topic. But we definitely don't have a problem of being that show. Boxing Day. The origins of Boxing Day can be traced to the practice in Great Britain. In earlier times of giving cash or goods to the lower classes, gifts among equals would have already been exchanged on or before Christmas Day. Boxing Day. Never heard of that. Bread. Many people bake special bread, such as pumpkin or banana bread, to share with family and friends at holidays, meal times, or to give as gifts. Buckeyes. A popular treat during the holiday season, Buckeyes are a confection created by dipping peanut butter fudge in milk chocolate and fashioning it to resemble a real Buckeye, the brown nut from the Buckeye tree. I'd never been on one for fudge. You know what I'm thinking about the movie? I made that little noise. What's the name? Busta Rhymes does that in one of his videos. I don't think it's dangerous. When he's in the car, he's like, he just keeps on going. He's just like, he's driving and he like, and he has on his seatbelt and he's like, that, I'm just not like, I just never been a fudge person, and it's peanut butter fudge and milk chocolate. That just doesn't sound too appealing to me, but that's just me. Burgermeister Meisterburger. But the town's Burgermeister, her Meisterburger, together with an evil wizard named Winter, tries to outlaw toys and prevent Chris's dream from being realized. Camel. The dromedary camel has a single hump, while the Bactrian camel has two humps. So the dromedary camel has a single hump, while the Bactrian camel has two. Camel's hair. John the Baptist, Jesus' cousin, who was born near the same time as Jesus and who was his forerunner, wore a garment made from camel's hair. I didn't know that they considered him his cousin. Candlelight. People in medieval times believed that the Christ child wandered the streets of Christmas Eve in search of homes where he would be welcome. If the homeowner turned away anyone who knocked at the door, the Christ child in disguise might be the one turned away. Candlelight. So I guess in odds, of course, I guess when it comes to certain candle making companies, I guess we have to like be diligent and firm with regards to child molesters, like this predator, where they don't have access to something like candles, because this is what it's perceived as. We can't have you know someone thinking they can go there because they see a candle and it's a child molester. That's just how I feel about it. But then there's, we do have Long Kiss Goodnight and that scene where the kid was kidnapped and there's a candle in the window. So we do have that scene. So like, oh, you're discriminating against, us and we're listed as sex offenders or whatever. Um, but, it's always those ones that's not. But anyway, that's just one scene. Candy cane. In this version, it is said the candy maker wanted the white to represent Jesus' purity, the bold red stripes, the crucifixion, and the thin red stripes, the Holy Trinity. I've never heard of that. I really have never heard of that. I was working at a place and I wanted to do something. I just thought of doing something extra special and giving away candy canes. So, how you get the fortune cookies and they have like the little fortune in it. So it's just like, I want to do something extra special to this place. The people that worked here doing this job for people that call in and want to be served. Um, you know, so all these little motivational sayings, inspirational sayings, put on the candy cane and like gave them away. To everybody, like desk, put on everyone's desk. Now, if I would have known that the candy cane was had to do with Chris, I mean, like had something other than just it being like some decorative traditional thing. I don't know. I might would have thought something else about it, but I'm glad that it still went with, like me doing like the inspirational, like little saying, taping on it, and just putting the time into that if those feel as though the white represented the pretty, that the innocence of that and it was on white paper, that it's still, like when you do those things, when you don't know, when you're not consciously in the knowledge of knowing what something is or what it's about, that there's still something, some higher power guiding your treatment of it or your participation with it. So that's a good thing. It's a good to know that I was within that, at that time. Cards Christmas. The first Christmas card, as we know it, is believed to have been designed in the early 1840s by John Calcutt, Horsley in England for his friend. Carol. The origin of the word carol goes back to the Greek choros, which was the name of a circle dance. cave. Some believe the manger where Jesus was born was actually in a cave used as a stall for animals. If so, we can derive a tiny symbolism from this picture. Jesus' birth, burial, and resurrection took place in a cave, a hollow place in the heart of the earth. So his birth, death, and resurrection allow us to invite him to fill the hollow place within our hearts. Census. Thus, Jesus was born in Bethlehem, fulfilling the prophecy that the Messiah would be born there. Charlie Brown. The story focuses on Charlie Brown's search for the real meaning of Christmas and features Linus, a friend of Charlie's, reciting the birth of Jesus from the Gospel of Luke. Checking it twice. People have always believed this to mean that Santa is just being thorough. Children. Children need no definition, but perhaps we need to be reminded of just how much Jesus loves them. The Bible tells us how little children were drawn to Jesus. When others tried to push them away, Jesus insisted they be allowed to come to him. Doing what children do best, they most probably gave him hugs, climbed into his arms, and sat on his lap. Christ. Often misunderstood to be a surname of Jesus, the word Christ is in fact a title. The followers of Jesus are known as Christians because they believe him to be the Messiah or the Anointed One, who came in fulfillment of Old Testament prophecies. Christendom. In the broadest sense, Christendom refers to those parts of the world where most people are Christians. Christmas. From the words Christ Mass, Christmas is the annual holiday celebrating the birth of Jesus. Christmas Eve. While this literally means the evening before Christmas or the evening of December 24, it has come to be used for the entire 24-hour period preceding Christmas Day. Christmas pageant. So we have like 15 minutes left, and I'm just on C. I really don't think we're going to get to Z. But on your own time, if you're diligent and an above and beyond person, you can find Christmas A to Z, Unwrap the Wonder of Seasonal Words and Phrases by Thomas Nelson Incorporated. Christmas pageants. A Christmas pageant is a play, parade, musical, or some other type of stage presentation performed to celebrate the birth of Jesus. Christmas Shoes. The Christmas Shoes, a song written by New Songs, is the story of a young boy who wants to buy a pair of new shoes for his dying mother before she meets Jesus. The poignant story has spread across the internet in many forms and been attributed to various sources, but the origin appears to be based on a true incident which occurred over a quarter century ago to a woman from Kansas named Hella Schmidt. Miss Schmidt, who was in a checkout line at Christmas, gave two children $3 so they would have enough money to buy a pair of shoes for their mother. Christmas tree. When German immigrants arrived in America, they brought along with them their custom of the Christmas tree. But it wasn't until the 1800s that the Christmas tree was commonly accepted in America. One of the biggest, brightest, most famous Christmas trees of all is the one in Rockefeller Center in New York City with its 30,000 colored lights. Christmas tree skirt. A skirt draped around the bottom of the tree would catch the dripping wax. Christmas truce. A brief truce was called so that each side could retrieve fallen comrades and bring them back behind their lines for burial. The truce soon spread to other areas behind the lines. City of David, the name given to two cities in the Bible. Claus Santa. In modern folklore, Santa is a kindly, white-haired, tubby man who lives at the North Pole, wears a red suit trimmed in white, and brings toys on Christmas Eve to good little boys and girls. For others, however, Santa exists comfortably alongside the true meaning of Christmas, with Christian parents teaching their children that while one is myth, the one whose birth is celebrated on Christmas is real. Comfort and joy. This refers to the appearance of the angels to the shepherds at the birth of Christ. And behold, an angel of the Lord stood before them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were greatly afraid. Then the angel said to them, "Do not be afraid, for behold, I bring you good tidings of great joy, which will be to all people." Consolation. This is what God revealed to Simeon in the Gospel of Luke. And behold, there was a man in Jerusalem whose name was Simeon. And this man was just and devout, waiting for the consolation of Israel, and the Holy Spirit was upon him. And it had been revealed to him by the Holy Spirit that he would not see death before he had seen the Lord's Christ. So he came by the Spirit into the temple. And when the parents brought in the child Jesus to do for him according to the custom of the law, he took him up in his arms and blessed God and said, "Lord, now you are letting your servant depart in peace, according to your word. For my eyes have seen your salvation, which you have prepared before the face of all peoples, a light to bring revelation to the Gentiles, and the glory of your people Israel." Covenant. The Bible refers to God's covenant with Israel, which God made an agreement with Israel through Abraham to protect and take care of his people if they remained obedient and faithful to him. Through Jesus Christ, God has made a new covenant with humankind. Jesus is referred to in the book of Hebrews as the mediator of the new covenant. Cracked chit. Like, what? Cracked shit. That is what it says. Even though Bob worked in an office where there was so little heat, he was cold in winter, and even though his salary was so meager he could barely feed his family, he remained loyal to his employer. There was little to recommend working for Ebenezer Scrooge, except that to be employed by Scrooge was perhaps better than no job at all, though not by much. Cromwell Oliver. While Oliver Cromwell may not have personally banned Christmas, he is associated with the ban and was quite probably very supportive of it. Cup of cheer. Dating back to medieval times, a cup of cheer during the Christmas season can mean eggnog, wassail, or hot mulled wine, which is wine that has been heated with spices added. David King. David, whose name translates beloved, is described in the Bible as a man after God's own heart. A young shepherd boy, when we first meet him in the Bible, his destiny was to be king of Israel. David was a songwriter. He's one of the primary authors of the book of Psalms or songs, a musician and a dancer, apparently athletic, as the Bible describes him as leaping and dancing before the Lord. While still a boy tending his father's sheep, he killed both a lion and a bear when they attacked the flock. David failed Goliath with a slingshot, trusting in the power of God to be his weapon. December 25th, Christmas Day, a Christian holiday, the day we celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ. Deck the Halls, a Christmas carol whose origin is unknown but widely believed to be Welsh, circa 16th or 17th century. Decree. It was actually Caesar Augustus' census decree that set the Christmas story in motion because it forced Joseph and Mary to return to Bethlehem, the place where their son Jesus had been prophesied to be born. Department store Santa. 40 years, the Boston store in Brockton, Massachusetts, hired a Scottish immigrant to pose as Santa Claus. A Scottish immigrant. As if the department store Santa has to be Scottish. Dirty Santa. When one's number is called, a gift may be taken from under the tree or stolen from an earlier player. The higher your number, the better choice you have. I guess unless you're Dirty Santa. Discount. Whatever shopper hopes to receive at Christmas time while doing their Christmas shopping, the bigger the discount, the better. Donkey. Jesus' mother, Mary, is often shown riding a donkey to Bethlehem, although no donkey is actually mentioned in the Bible's accounts of Jesus' birth. Dove. One of the animals of the Bible, a pure white bird that may represent innocence, gentleness, love, and purity, a symbol of the Holy Spirit. Drummer Boy. Little Drummer Boy is such a popular Christmas carol that it's difficult to believe it's only been around since 1958. Drummers. Drums figure prominently in holiday music and holiday themes, from Little Drummer Boy to the Nutcracker Ballet. Ebenezer. Ebenezer. It is mentioned in the Bible as the scene of a battle between the Israelites and the Philistines, and is also the name given to the stone marker erected at the site. In modern terminology, many Christians consider an Ebenezer to be a milestone that marks an important part of their journey. Or spiritually, it may be anything that reminds us of God's help, His love, or His presence. Eggnog. It is believed that the eggnog tradition began in Europe in the 17th century when it was served at social gatherings. Eggnog was brought to America by the colonists, who added rum, a cheap liquor imported from the Caribbean. Egypt. Egypt figures prominently in the Bible. Elizabeth. Elizabeth was the mother of John the Baptist. Elizabeth waited many years to have a child and was thought to be barren. I didn't know that either. Elizabeth considered to be John the Baptist's mother. Eternal life. Promised to all who believe in Jesus Christ, eternal life is not only a life promised to us in the future after death, but the Apostle John declares that Christians have already begun to experience eternal life because they have a relationship with God and with His Son, Jesus Christ. Eucharist. The sacrament of Holy Communion, the Lord's Supper, the consecrated elements of the communion, especially the bread. Never heard of Eucharist. So evidently it's the consecrated elements of the communion, especially the bread. The consecrated elements, the sacrament of Holy Communion, the Lord's Supper, the consecrated elements of the communion, especially the bread. Exaltation. lively or triumphant joy, to be extremely joyful, an exuberant expression of such joy. The Christmas carol, O Come All Ye Faithful, urges choirs of angels to sing in exaltation, to celebrate the birth of Jesus. And we'll stop there. So we did A through E, and that leaves F through Z. If we get to do another show before Christmas, maybe we'll finish this book if it's here and available. But that has been our show today. We'll continue to update you. You can check out our Facebook page, which is the Late Late Show with BT, and the friend to the show, Latasha BT Rain's Facebook, which is more case oriented about different things, and just kind of, we haven't really put all of that in the show. The Late Late Show with BT's Facebook page has been mostly going towards the Latasha BT Rain's Facebook page. And that's because, it just seemed more appropriate as opposed to, doing the show and, keeping in what we discuss on the show. So Latasha BT Rain's, includes some things that are discussed on the show and some things that are not discussed on the show. So we've updating about mom and which and also we got the middle now. So any of those type of updates and just general things that come up has been on the Latasha BT Rain's Facebook page. And really the Late Late Show with BT's page, we've been putting some things and just things that can bring together the co-hosts, and that can, be more that goes toward actually making the show happen. So either or, you interested. If you're not interested in broadcasting, but you're interested in security, or you're interested in, being able to be out there as an actor and contribute, and you understand the seriousness of what we stand for and all that it entails, or you're just interested in fashion, or you're interested in being a Cosmo boy or girl, or you're interested in drag, you can still check out the Latasha BT Rain's Facebook page, and stay updated on what's happening in a lot of different genres and with a lot of different different contributors that we support and have identified as being contributory. And this has been a Late Late Show with BT. Bye.